Okay, the idea for this educational came over a course of, I guess, 4 or 5 debates, and increasingly I saw people speaking who I had trouble, either as an adjudicator, as a member of the audience, or a member of the government or opposition. I had trouble following what they were saying because from my point of view, they seem to be very disorganized. Now, there are, for every single person, there is a different style of speaking. There are many, many people who can just come up and speak off the top of their head and be very organized, and it's easy to follow, and it's systematic, and everybody has no problem with that. But there are a lot of people, like myself, who must be organized, or what comes out of our mouths is very hard to follow. Sometimes it is even when I'm organized, and I'm sure other people feel the same. However, there are 3 things that you need to keep in mind. If you are organized in your debating and your speaking, it's easier for most people to follow, and your debate is going to be better if you are somewhat organized. Certainly, it's going to be much easier for the adjudicator to follow if you are operating from some sort of routine or plan in an organized way. And for the members of the audience, it's also probably a lot easier if what they hear coming out of your mouth makes sense to them and they can follow what you're saying and where you're going with your thoughts. That's pretty obvious. Now, you will hear, everybody has heard the idea that you must have 3 arguments, if you're 3 or 4 arguments. However, if you're sitting there as an adjudicator or a member of the audience, and a person is up here speaking and you cannot tell where one argument stops and the next one starts, then it gets very muddling sometimes, very difficult for an adjudicator or a member of the audience to follow the person's thought patterns. So, whether, I know I'm not the only person who does this, but I find it much better to have a plan for myself, and I know I have a plan.
Is this a new point?
Thank you. There are 4 things that each debate has to have. You have to have some sort of an opening, which includes an introduction, and from my point of view, an outline, and I'll get to that in a minute. Then you have your arguments and your final closing. So you have an introduction, an outline, arguments, and your final closing. Now, by introduction, I'm simply talking about, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, members of the opposition. 10 seconds worth. There's your opening. And then I always try to do an outline. By outline, what I'm talking about is I'm going to first start by rebutting the speaker who just spoke. I'm going to then turn to my arguments. I'll give you my 3 arguments after that. So that's what I call about my outline. So now people know what's coming. They know I'm going to start with rebuttal, then I'm going to go into my opening arguments, or my 3 arguments. Now, I then turn around and say, okay, I'm going to now rebut the first point that the previous speaker made. Whether it's a good idea or bad, this is what I do, and it helps me stay organized. And I think I intended this more for beginning speakers, people who hadn't done a lot of debating, because I think this is one of the hardest things that people come up against: how to be organized, where to go, how to do that first debate in an organized way. And rightly or wrongly, I always start with my first argument is, my second argument is, my third argument is. And I know roughly what I'm going to say in there for each of those arguments. So I give myself about 45 seconds to a minute for the opening and my outline. I give myself about 1.5 minutes for each of my 3 arguments, and if there's a rebuttal in there, then I scale it one way or the other. I try. It doesn't always work, but the other thing that a lot of beginning debaters have trouble with is timing. And we've seen many, many people who will spend 3 minutes on their first argument, a minute on the second argument, and about 15 seconds on the third argument, because they run out of time. So timing is a crucial thing as well. We all know that there's a bell a minute before the end. By that point, by that time, you should be on your third argument. You should be halfway through your third argument. But you must always leave time at the end for a closing remark. And if for those people who remember my closing remark in the last debate, it got very muddled because I ran out of time and I got very muddled in what I was saying. So a simple thing such as, a very simple thing such as, ladies and gentlemen, please vote with me against this resolution, or vote with the opposition, or vote against the government. Something very, very simple. As some of you might remember, I got confused trying to get into the wording, and it was a negative resolution, and that gets you very, very confused. So if you have something that's generic, that you're going to pull out of the hat, and you're going to say no matter what, then it's a lot better. I don't have a whole lot more. For those people who are very anal, I wrote a whole lot of stuff down. I can hand this out for you. You can have a look at it. But from my point of view, I wanted to do something for people who have trouble being organized. And the thing that helps me the most, as I said, is this is my first argument, and then I speak. This is my second. This is my third. That helps me be organized. Now, I don't know if there are other people who find the same problem, and this might come up as some sort of a solution. I'm not sure. Thank you.